Picking up on the budgeting again, and we've got Babajide Ogunsanwo, our data and information analyst, to do that with us today. Thank you for coming on today.
It's always good to be here.
Yes, indeed. So we finally have got the 2017 budget passed, and then some other elements, the National Assembly making this public, but you've looked through some of those documents. What jumps out at you?
History. And so a third of a century ago, when the economy was in crisis, the President Buhari, had delivered his budget, his second budget, just like he's done this time around. What was the title of that budget? It was called the Budget of Recovery. The same title of the 2017 budget. And so we've seen 3 different decades, military and civilian leaders, 7 different leaders, yet the economy hasn't fully recovered. The economy hasn't fully recovered. And so the 81 million Nigerians in today's labor force are asking, will this 7.4 trillion naira budget help this hospital patient called Nigeria? Will this 7.4 trillion naira budget help us? Now,
You mean we're on admission?
Clearly we're on admission. Especially if we remember where we're coming from. Even the ERGP has talked about the current challenges that we are facing. Poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Now, will this budget, compared to what we had last year, 6.06 trillion naira budget for 2016, that's a 22% increase compared to what we had last year. So it makes us look at it from understanding that the government has a wallet. The Nigerian government indeed has a wallet. But there are 6 million Nigerians as well who wake up every day, Gimba, and they have nothing to do. 6 million. Now, what is 6 million? 6 million is larger than the population of Denmark, larger than the population of Norway. 6 million is even larger than the population of Singapore.
That's scary.
And these 6 million Nigerians are asking, they are not really bothered about the size of the government's wallets. They are asking, what is in this wallet? And what can the government's wallet do for them? Now, one way to look at it is for us to look at the 7.4 trillion naira budget, but that's not really the only way. The most important line item on that budget is the capital expenditure, CapEx. Now, in the 2017 budget, that's 2.1 trillion naira, 2.1 trillion. That sounds like a lot of money. But again, the NBS lets us know that there are over 190 million Nigerians. So what is 2.1 trillion naira capital expenditure to you and I? What should families expect? Chamberlain, please hold this. Could you help me pass that?
Is it boiled egg or something?
No, it's still fresh. And that's yours.
Okay.
It can break then?
It can. But a lot of Nigerians identify with this. It's 40 naira. Today, some weeks back, it was 30 naira. But 2.1 trillion naira as capex for all Nigerians is equivalent to that a day. So that's what you get from the government per day as capital expenditure. You get an egg. That is your capex in your hands.
For 190 million people.
Exactly, per day. You get an egg.
Each person gets an egg.
Each person gets an egg. 40 naira.
But we don't need to eat our capex, do we?
No, you don't. But it just lets you realize that the capex is way too small. Let's look at Google. Just one company, $10 billion in capex. What is that in naira? 3.1 trillion naira. So Google, a private company, spends more on capital expenditure than the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So today there are 3 questions that should bother us. 3 questions. The first is, why is the budget small? Answer, because the revenue is small. The second question is, Why is the revenue small? The answer, because the oil money is small. And the third question is, so why is the oil money small? And that's because our population is not small. So listen carefully to what I'm about to say. It lets us understand today's challenges as it relates to our revenue. So we look at Saudi Arabia, 28 million citizens, crude oil production, 10 million barrels per day. What does this mean? It means if the Saudi Arabian government were to sell all its oil and allocate it to each of its citizens, each person will get 58 liters of crude oil per day. So just make it simple, 58 liters.
Or 2 crates of eggs.
If you want to look at it in some other perspective.
I hope you don't plan on eating your capex, Kimber.
But of course not. We're just analyzing this to see how far we can bring it down to real terms.
Just pull your leg.
So 58 liters per day per person. If you work it out for Kuwait, again for their own 2.7 million population, they get 146 liters per person per day of crude oil. So Saudi Arabia, 58, Kuwait, 146. In Nigeria, the equivalent is only 2 liters per day. And that's because compared to our population, our crude oil production is meager. Our crude oil production wouldn't save us. So let's make informed decisions. 3 informed decisions. The first is that oil revenue isn't our Jesus Christ. It would not save us. The second is to even look at non-oil income. The federal government earns less than 900 billion naira from corporate income tax, roughly about 400 billion from customs. These are small amounts compared to the size and needs of the country. So in reality, non-oil income is Judas. It is only here to deceive us. Non-oil income wouldn't also save us. The third that we do not talk about are 3 I's: ideas and innovation income. Again, what do I mean by ideas and innovation income from the evidence? Again, back to Google. Google's R&D expense on R&D alone, $14 billion. That's the equivalent of 4.1 trillion naira. So what Google spends in the lab on R&D is much more than the FGN earns from selling oil, from collecting taxes from corporate clients, and even from all our border enforcement customs.